Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the C-Suite Cyber Podcast. The C-Suite Cyber Podcast enables C-Suite executives to make security-informed decisions. What do we got today, Mike?
Today we have a fun topic. We've talked about certifications before. We're going to do it again, whether you like it or not. No, today we're talking about certifications from a hiring manager's perspective. Like, what do we care about? What's the reputation of these different bodies and the certifications? And most importantly, are they bringing your team value? So that's what's coming up today.
So why should executives even care about certifications? Or should they?
That is a good question. So, why should they? Well, traditionally, we look at certifications as an educational kind of thing, right? I was going to say platform, but it sounds kind of like too on the nose. But they're basically, continuing education for our people, and the hope that we get out of that is that they're getting better at whatever we're essentially paying them for. So that's the goal. Now, whether or not it does that, if it fills the need, that's a different thing. On the other hand, when we're hiring people, we look at certifications. We're looking at, does this indicate that they have the skills that I'm trying to hire for? So, kind of two things. Was there anything I missed, or is there anything that you would look at in certifications as a manager type?
I think the biggest thing, and I'm sure we'll get into it, is like how I value the certification as the person reviewing the applicant's resume. So like, is it CEH or is it OSCP, right? Is it like theoretical and outdated, or is it hands-on and maybe more realistic?
That is the ultimate thing, really, right? We have a lot of unrealistic ones, or some that are just foundational that have been kind of, I don't want to say overused, but they've been put up higher on a pedestal than they deserve to be. We'll say that.
Yeah.
I'll put that out there. But yeah, we'll dive into this more. Um, yeah, and really, if we have any people looking at applying to roles, which I'm sure some folks are in here watching that do that, you know, also, what do hiring managers think about the things that you're looking at getting? This is very important for them as well. What do they see when they see it on your resume? Is this something worthwhile? Is it not? And I promise you, there is a there is a difference there. I've been doing a lot of streaming recently, so if we do the stream, I'll self promote here. So I stream every Thursday with for folks trying to break into cybersecurity, and the goal, really, for me, it's very my self interest in mind here is I want to help build people that I would like to hire. So that this is all in my self interest. And so it's pretty interesting where they're like, "Hey, Mike, can you review my game plan here of what certifications I want to chase or what my journey is going to look like?" And they're just super excited about it. And I'm like, "This and this and this isn't going to do much for you. It's really not going to help." And they're like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I'm seeing it on all these job listings, or someone's told me it's really good, but in practice, it's not helping." So there is kind of a division there, and versus reputation versus reality.
Yeah. I think it's a big one too, because a lot of times, whoever's writing the job rec just kind of gives like a list, and the hiring manager might not know anything about it depending on their previous background. So they could view it as a checkbox essentially, not realizing that that candidate might be uh, less valuable, we'll say, in the output of their work compared to someone who doesn't have that certificate but has more experience or like has actually done stuff. For example, the two of us, you have 19 certifications or more. What's the number now?
I don't know, probably that. I haven't got any, and like, no, I got one last year. That's all I got.
Okay. So more than 10.
Yes.
Um, I have four. So like very different, different experience there. But we do very different things and like different outputs as well. So I think the big thing is just knowing whether or not the certification actually holds value. And that really just means that you need to ask specific questions in like the phone interview. Um, but I guess let's back it up a little bit. Do you think certifications should be used to exclude applicants? from a job.
In what way?
So, like, would you ever set a hard requirement? You run a global SOC for like Sec Plus, we'll say.
So that's kind of a double-edged sword for me and the world that I live in. So we do government stuff, so there is
Right,
a hard requirement. I don't set it, the government sets it.
right.
Yes.
Outside
Now
of
for
8570,
yeah,
we'll
so
say. Yeah.
8570, well there's a new one now. I forget what the numbers are. I should know what the new one is, but it's been updated. Anyways, for me, I think I would regardless. And I'll tell you why. But first, I want to note that AJ just talked about all my certifications in one fell swoop. That's okay.
No.
I forgive him. I'll tell you half of them are junk anyway,
Said
so
we do
whatever.
different outputs.
But yes, I would, and I'll tell you why. So a lot of candidates coming out of school suck. Their labs aren't realistic. They're not getting anything from them, and they can't even talk at a basic level, whatever it is. So I mostly focus on SOC candidates, right? Global SOC. That's who I talk to. And I have yet to interview someone that's had a killer cybersecurity program that prepares them for the role they're taking. So, yes, I would in the fact that I want to ensure they have fundamental knowledge. Now, so if they have a degree, no certifications, I probably wouldn't interview them unless they have like a bunch of additional labs. And that's my caveat. I tell my recruiters, I want to see labs on these resumes. Otherwise, they're not going to stand a chance in the interview. Not even going to waste my time because it has been 100% accurate so far. I've let her slide some people in there. Not a single one of them without labs have passed the interview. Not even close. So there is a clear distinction there. And for me, another thing, so some people say, oh, just because you have a lot of resumes, you're just a cert chaser. Yeah, to some degree. What I'm looking for mostly are people who are kind of really just all motivated, right? We're looking at people who are motivated, who love the subject matter, and a lot of that's shown off by are they doing stuff outside of schools? For instance, I've done some interviews where they're like, "Yeah, I've done some try hack me," and that's how they got into the interview because they told my recruiter that, and I talked to them. They haven't touched it in 2 years. You know what? Obviously, you don't care. You're not really trying that hard to get into it. Um, so there's a big problem there, and I will tell you the reason why, and this is kind of going away from certifications a little bit, but one of the big reasons why we want to see that just in general, hands-on experience, right? They're not getting on-the-job experience, but they can get hands-on experience, and there is a distinction there. Uh, but they're going to be easier for me to operationalize. In every other hiring manager, they're going to be easier to operationalize the more knowledge they have. That's kind of the line that threshold you're trying to cross. What are your thoughts about that thought? Inception thought.
Yeah, I agree. I think that kind of goes into what we've discussed in the past as far as like people training for tools rather than like
Mm.
learning things as well. Um, so yeah, I agree with that sentiment. I think the labs is funny, and also you kind of flip the trash talking on me because I don't have a 4-year degree, so showing that commitment is not there. uh,
Before last year, AJ didn't care at all about cybersecurity. Let me tell you. Now that he has AI, boy, is he crushing it.
yeah, it's great. Uh, Speaking of certs, I will be sitting for this SP sometime this year about my voucher. So
Oh, did
we'll
you? That's a big
yeah
step, man. That's
we'll
quite the
either
commitment, you know?
yeah my let me rephrase that. My employer bought my voucher.
Oh, okay.
Um, so we'll see if I have another cert and some stupid letters added after my name on LinkedIn soon. Um,
Are you going to put in your signature? That's the key question.
no,
No, no signature for you? Okay. All
I
right.
mean this is a little tangential, but I think a lot of people with CISP that like do that um, might not have the best security prowess, and I think that's a sentiment that's held in certain circles for sure when it comes to like that being deemed a security cert, which is not, right? It's risk um, and business like impact related. So we'll see.
Already trash talking. We haven't even got to the discussion of certification bodies yet. It's coming. It's going to come quick. So he hates certifications, but he's getting one anyways. So why are you getting one anyways if you hate certifications? I think this will be good insight.
Yeah. So being completely transparent, uh, hopefully it'll open doors for me that otherwise have been closed. And I think it'll add some validity, we'll say, to like my external engagements as well, because some people do care about that, or they might see, okay, you've been in cybersecurity for 15 years, but like we tend to speak to people that have CISP um, in their name, so like why should we talk to you or whatever, right? It's just checking the box, hopefully opening doors for me in my case, because it's not going to change my role at my current employer, and I don't think it'll dramatically change anything otherwise.
So, in summary, it's adding some validity to
Yeah.
your skill set where people look at your resume and they may not necessarily say, hey, AJ is pretty good at what he does. I can say that, but I know you personally. But if people were to look at your resume, they wouldn't think that. And you're hoping that this kind of sets a little bit of that up for you.
Well, I would hope reading my resume doesn't give them the idea that I'm not good at my job, but sure.
It makes it glow a little brighter, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and that's my opinion on degrees as well. But um, yeah, moving on.
It's going to sparkle like a Twilight vampire among all the other resumes.
So let's go to vendor credibility
Okay.
because I've already dropped some tidbits for you. What are some of the main certification bodies, and what are your like? How would you rank them? I guess.
Ooh, that is a good question. And it just depends, I think. Really, for me, it depends. So I do have Paul, I think it's Paul Jeremy is the guy that did one. I do want to screen share that. And I have it pulled up here. And I will do that real quick so we can talk to that.
This is a Google Sheet one.
It's not a Google Sheet one. There's actually a website for it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So this is it. All right. Let me know when you can see it. So, yeah, there's a lot of certification bodies out there. To kind of just summarize, so what we mean when we say certification bodies is the name behind the certification. So, CompTIA, Security Plus, GIAC, whatever, Web Application Penetration Test or whatever, GIAC certification body. What else we have? CISSP is ISC squares CISP. So the certification body is the one that is doing all the accreditation, handling all the CPEs, the one doing all the promotion. That's who we're talking about. And really, just like anything else in this world, reputation means everything. And what are they doing to help distinguish their certifications versus others and make them practical, realistic, etc.? All those things. All right, so there's your background. We're trying to get good with background. So this guy, Paul Jeremy, threw together, and he keeps updating it too, a list of all the certifications, 481 as of July 2024. So I guess it hadn't been updated in a while, but this is probably the most comprehensive list of certifications that I've seen.
It's still not
Uh,
showing on my screen.
really?
Yeah, it's just showing the loading, like three dots.
Well, let's try one more time. Anyway, so it's still probably the most comprehensive one I've seen, which says a lot. So there are a ton. Like, look at this, and it's not just SOC analysts or penetration testing. It runs the gamut here. It's all the way over to like software and IAM, GRC, bleh, uh, no offense to anyone that likes that. But anyways, yeah, so there's a bunch in here and included in here we have Azure, Microsoft type folks, AWS, Cisco, Juniper. There's all kind of stuff in here. So Now, when he's talking about which ones do I think suck, it's not a matter of being horrible at what you do. There could be other things in there. So let's talk about one. Let's talk about the elephant in the room that no one likes, the EC Council as a certification body. So you've never done the CEH, right?
Correct.
What do you think about it, knowing that you haven't done it? It's in all these job listings everywhere. What do you think about it as a practitioner, as a manager? What would you say if someone came in with it?
Uh, yeah, from my experience researching and talking to people who have taken the test, it is inaccurate in that some of their answers are factually incorrect that they take for giving points on the exam, as well as outdated. So I would basically not even attribute that as a valid certification.
Okay. So, this is one of those cases where their reputation precedes it. But this used to be resume fodder. HR folks would just chomping at the bit if they saw someone with this on their resume. But once it got past them to the practitioners, they're like, okay, whatever. Something I did want to go back to since we're talking about recruiters. This is where the discrepancies are, and I will tell you, after tons and tons of conversations with my recruiter, I work very closely with. They don't know how to do our job, and we're very bad at doing their job. So we need to not assume they know everything we know, and they know that everything that we know. That's not a thing. Have those conversations with your recruiters. What are you looking for and why? And make sure you take the time to explain it in a way that they understand. Again, they are not cybersecurity experts, but they are looking for your cybersecurity experts. So you need to, or maybe not experts, but practitioners. So you need to take the time to explain to them so they can filter out all the noise and bring you quality candidates. This is something you have to do. So if you're not doing it, all they're going to do is just use ChatGPT to do it, and they're going to do it in a bad way, and you're just going to get a bunch of really bad candidates, and you're going to waste your time. So I just wanted to take a pause and say, make sure you establish that relationship. If you don't tell them it's something that's important to their job, they don't know. Just assume they don't know it. So there you go. All right. So yes, I agree. Papa Small actually has a CEH, and he
It
will
was
tell you the
probably
same
valid
thing.
when he took it.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that great. So he's a great example of why the certification is not good for what they market it to. So they market it certified ethical hacker. That's what the CH stands for, if you didn't know. And you're assuming you take this certification and you can hack some stuff. That's what we're assuming. That is not the case. A lot of the exam is based on just understanding command syntax and things like that. But the idea that you could do a pen test or even come close to doing anything that would be resemble hacking is highly inaccurate. And I will tell you that because he took it. He blasted it. I don't know how long it was, maybe a couple of months. He studied for it. He was brand new, knocked it out, and he's working on his OSCP still. Like OSCP is king, spoiler, king of the penetration testing certs for a reason. But that just shows you the disconnect between reality and perceived reality. It didn't even come close. I don't even know how to describe how far off it was. I needed like a good metaphor here. It's like, give me a good metaphor. What's it metaphor of for the CEH compared to like actually being able to do your job? How about acting? Right, watching these movies because this is the notorious bad actor. Yeah, like what did you let's talk about it. So when you got into acting, you probably had this view of it and thought it was going to be cool and fun. And then now that you've been doing it for a few years, was there is there a disconnect between like that initial sparkly eye, super interested, and where you are today?
Oh yeah, I mean, for one thing, like for anyone who doesn't know how TV or movies are made, you see one take, right? Because obviously you wouldn't want to watch 10 versions of the same thing. But when you're actually filming it, you're probably going to do at least 6 takes. And that's because there's a wide established shot. So, like seeing multiple people, bigger room, you're probably going to have over the shoulder from one character, over the shoulder of the other character. Um, you're going to have multiple takes for each one of those so that they have options when they're cutting to splice it all together. You sit around and wait for like hours at a time while they're setting up shots and stuff. Acting in general is a terrible industry, let's be honest. But it's fun. Like, I like it. I don't do as much as I would like to, but c'est la vie. Um, Going back to this, though, I do want to point out, just so people can see visually, CEH is the lowest read between incident handling and penetration testing. And OSCP is the on penetration testing exploitation. Yep, up there. So just to give you an idea, right, of where those two sit, that's a big change. That's almost an additional, like, I guess, 50%, would you say? Like CEH is 25 and OSCP is 75?
Yeah, that's probably pretty close. Is that it? I feel
And
like.
yeah, I was teeing you up, dude. Continue.
Oh, okay. I thought you had more you were going to go in on, but thanks for the teeing of yeah. Uh, uh, yeah, I mean, there's a ton here. There's a big disconnect just in general. So just things you need to think about. So whenever you're hiring or whenever you're looking to figure out what's next, actually talk to people who have done these certifications and ask for their feedback. Did you feel like you got what you wanted out of this? Uh, so let's do something fun real quick. So let's randomly go through some of these, and I because you haven't done a lot of them, I want to get your instant reaction. So this is reaction video. This would be a good short for YouTube later. So I want AJ's reaction and I'm just going to do the major ones and get your reaction on them. So we'll start with pen testing, then we'll go to defensive, and let's see what AJ says here. All right, EJPT.
I was looking at taking this one. You weren't very fond of it, so I would put it as like a 2 out of 5.
Okay. How about, let's see, what else is in here that I know? How about this one? eLearn Certified Professional Pen Tester.
I don't know eLearn at all, so uh,
Oh, that's the parent company of this one you were talking about.
oh, it is okay. Um, 3 because I don't know anything about it.
So just to point out, so there's a disconnect in reputation. So they don't have a massive reputation, but he has heard of them. Just unsure of the quality. Okay. How about these hack the box ones here?
I haven't done Hack the Box in a while, but I know the lab framework and stuff. So I'd say they're pretty good. Probably also a 3 in my opinion, just based off of um, having never done them before, knowing like you have to compromise the network. There's also, I would say it's a 3 because there's also typically you can find write-ups, and I'm sure like the labs for the exam aren't available written up somewhere, but a lot of times you can cheat like going through the labs. So I think that might hinder some people. It might also help them if they're not the best, like me, getting through some of the, the training environments.
We'll talk about that later. Cheating. No, not cheating, but AIDS. How about Crest? We hadn't mentioned that. How do you feel about Crest?
I don't think I've seen Crust in forever. Um, and just to like provide more context, right? Like I know of offensive security, which is OSCP, OSEP, which is towards the top that Mike has because he's a nerd. Um, and then GIAC, so like GWEP and GPIN and whatever else.
I've never heard it called that, a JIAC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even know what CRUST stands for, so
I don't either.
couldn't tell you. But the EJPT, I will say, going back to the eLearn, like I've seen that. I recognize that. ECPPT, I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah, so that's just the junior and then like the normal like pen test one. Those are both Papa Small has both of those actually. And he hasn't passed OSCP yet. Get to it,
Dude's
Dad.
just catching strays out here today.
Well, it's a good, demonstration because I would say they're not at the same level as OSCP, but they're like preparatory exams because they're a little bit more gentle than OffSec certifications.
Yeah.
So not meaning to throw strays at my dad, just trying to show the divide there. He's got quite a few, but still struggling with a certain one that is considered the golden standard in my eyes and a lot of people's eyes. Okay, Crest. Yeah, I've seen Crest more in like European markets more than anything.
Okay.
I thought about getting it at one point, but then it didn't seem as hands-on because I think it's like a ABCD multi-guess type exam. So I was like, oh, that's not what I want. Um, so you said GX. So how about GWAPT,
That's the web app? Yeah.
web app one? Yeah.
Um, that's something I would probably never want to do. But yeah, I think it's like the listing here too. I'm also probably a little biased, but it is below OSCP. I think because it focuses on one area. Um, I'm curious what your thoughts are. I would say this is like 3.5. What would you? How would you equate it? Because you have this, right? And you have
Yeah.
OSCP. So in line, um, how would you kind of rank these?
Like, I think it sucks, but what do you think? I'm gonna kick it back over to you. No, I'd agree. I'd say it's like a 3 or 4, and simply because, and this is the problem I had with all these SAN certifications, because I don't know how many I have, what, 5, 6, 7, something like that, is that it's all textbook derived. And so as long as you can look up the answer, you pass the exam. There's no true demonstration of capability where I would actually rate these under, I might rate them either at the same or under the eLearn ones. Although I have some historical issues with eLearn security because they didn't want to give me a refund. But
Hmm.
in their poor practices and not letting me know before they yanked money out the bank account. But besides that, the content was there before they got bought out. So they INE bought out eLearn security anyways. But back a long time ago, primo. I haven't done anything, I don't think, since they got bought out. But back in the day, it was really good content. So those are my thoughts on the really expensive SAN certifications. I would put your money elsewhere. Although there are a couple that I would highly recommend. I will say that I enjoyed, and you just have to approach them differently. I would say mentally, and you'll get a lot out of them. Let's see if there's another. Oh, here's a good one. Nope, not that one. I just saw it in. Here it is. How about. Nope. How about CRTO?
Yeah.
So you know what I'm talking about. This one.
Yeah. Certified red team. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, oh, I didn't know there were multiple ones because I thought
Yeah,
this
there's two
is
now. They have 2 levels. Well, they have some other
okay.
ones as well, but two of the red team operator course one.
Yeah, I believe these are hands-on, right? So you have to like compromise the box.
Yeah, I think they're. If I remember correctly, they're from. Gosh, what's the guy's name? Rasta Mouse or something like that.
Oh, okay. 0 point security. Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. I would, I guess like a 4 at least. I think they're newer than like offensive security, right? So, and I've seen them more frequently on LinkedIn with people trying to acquire those certifications compared to some of the other bodies. Um, and similar to like BTL, like going to the security side, right? Compared to a SANS certification. And I think a lot of that comes down to pricing because, like you mentioned, SANS is pretty expensive. It's typically about 8 grand a cert now, which is wild.
Inflation.
Yeah. And that's like, I don't even know how much just the exam is. It's probably 2 grand itself. But yeah, I would say
It's a lot.
four. Do you have any familiarity with CRTO?
Yeah, I went through the course material, but I didn't take the exam. Um, I don't know. It's good stuff. It really is good stuff when you start looking at stuff as a red team operator. So I think it does do what it says. It's just one of those I would take something else first to build your fundamentals, and then I would take that because it talks more about how to do things in a more subversive way, so you're less likely to get caught. So like
Right.
trying to think of a good example. Like, for example, some of the bloodhound stuff. There's ways to do it so it's only one query. You get all the information and then you parse it later. Versus like if you run bloodhound the traditional way, it's doing all these queries, very noisy, easy to pick up. So it does do exactly what it says. It just you got to cross that gap of knowledge first. But it is good. I think it did a really good job. All completely hands-on exam as well. So videos, written content. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably give it like a five, 5, 6.
So let me ask you a little bit more nuanced question.
Sure.
You obviously do penetration testing, right? But if you were hiring for a red team, would you consider penetration testing certifications or only red team focused? And for those of you who might be unaware, typically the difference is like red team engagements are more covert and trying to persist in the network, whereas penetration testing, you might not care about getting caught and just like trying to find the actual vulnerabilities that can be exploited.
I think they go hand in hand personally. I know some people kind of put red team on this pedestal, which fine, yeah, deserved. But if you look at it, it's just fundamentally, it's still pen testing. It's just done in a more stealthy fashion. Um, and I think you do have to have more in-depth knowledge in specific skill sets to do it successfully. So yes, I would consider it, but none of those are going to would get them the job by themselves. They would have to talk in depth about whatever specialty I was hiring them for. So red teams are typically broken up into specialties, very specific specialties like exploit dev or physical, or I mean phishing. Probably, I think everyone just about on there does the phishing, but um, there are usually specialties, and it's for a reason because you have to know a ton in that to be good and to be able to develop custom things because these are like you said they're done stealthy. Once you get caught, that's it. You've blown your whole campaign, and you're expected to be very near adversarial level, if not past the majority of most adversaries out there. So the level is much higher. So answer in summary, yes, I would, but I dig in a lot more and check their depth of knowledge. To answer your question,
Yeah, good job.
yay, yay.
How would
Uh,
how would you rank? So again, like Mike's domain is both security and defensive, but since we're on the offensive side here, how would you rank the bodies? So offensive security, we'll go eLearn, we'll toss in um, SANS. How would you rank the, I guess, the more well-known bodies?
for pen testing or for both offensive and defensive?
Uh, Do you think that you could rank them for both, or do you think that it would like the listing would be the same for both, or you think it would change if you did?
I think it would change. And I'd have to change my perspective. So typically, when we look at offensive security, we're expecting the barrier of entry to be much higher. So we're expecting a lot more out of you if you're going to dip your toes even into an entry level job in offensive security. The threshold's higher. It's entry level for that domain, but not entry level as in anyone off the street could do it. Whereas in defensive security, the threshold is quite a bit lower. There's a lot less required in order to be successful there. So I'm just setting my frame of mind here. So if I had to rank them, I would say CEH is probably down there, actually, probably the lowest. And then CompTIA would be next. Like CompTIA is foundational. If you expect CompTIA to be anything but foundational, you're out of your mind. It is foundational. So if you're brand new starting out, you don't know what a port or a protocol is, that's probably a good place to start. It's going to teach you all that fundamental stuff, the basics. What's a security plan? What's, you know, what is GRC? What's whatever. You're going to know. I'm focusing on the offensive side here first. And then next, I would work my way up with any of these bodies that kind of help you get situated. So Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, eLearn Security are probably all about the same to me. They're at that kind of medium tier where it's really good information. It's all hands-on information, and it's getting you ready for some of these more complex certifications. I would stick most SANS or GX certifications down at this or below. And then I would move up to offensive security would be above that. And CRTO would be probably between offensive security and the other one in that kind of mid tier.
So you would group SANS, GIAC, Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, eLearn, and CRTO all in the same level?
Well, CRTO just above those.
Oh, okay. Okay. So overall, offensive security that's also a company slash certification body. You would rank the highest.
Yeah, I mean, I really haven't seen one that does it better. I've seen training platforms that do some really, really good stuff. And this isn't to say these are certification bodies, straight up certification bodies, meaning you have to take an exam to get that accreditation as an individual. There are numerous training organizations out there that do a fantastic job as well. There's quite a few in the offensive space there that are not listed here. So I just do want to make that distinction. Yep.
Cool. What about defense?
So let's talk through the defensive certifications. Let's do, this is going to be AJ's defensive reaction reel here. Let me throw a random one up here. EC Council, CND.
Probably trash.
Trash. Let's
Sorry,
see.
EC Council.
How about CYSA?
Also pretty trash, but when I was like in SOC, that didn't exist yet. We just had GSEC and GSED. So yeah, I would put it above the EC Council one.
Okay. How about Cisco?
Ooh, I don't know anything about networking. I would put that on the same level as CISA,
Okay.
CYSA.
How about BTL1?
Again, that's one of those that I've seen more recently on LinkedIn as far as people going after. I think you've mentioned it a few times, so I would put that as like a middle tier certification.
Okay. How about eLearns?
Forensics specifically.
Sure.
Yeah, that's something that I'll never get. We'll put that out of 4. I'm not a
It's
fan
one
of
of the ones I have
forensics.
to. Oh, it's so fun though. It's so fun. Let's see what else we got in
Well,
here.
let's call out so like GCIH, going back to your requirements, right? Like in most
Oh, here. Yep.
IR organizations, I at least had to have GCIH. Is that true for your organization?
Why is it showing me the forensic one? Okay, there's two, so it's showing the wrong thing there. It's one of the possible ones for 8570. It's So 8570, for those of you who aren't in the government space, so it's a list of kind of roles and possible certifications you have to have in those roles, and they break the roles down into different levels as well. So basically, you can get like GSEC or not GSEC, yeah, GSEC's in there, or GCIH. GCIH kind of covers quite a bit of them, just because of the broad scope of it. You could get Sec Plus, and that would cover like a small section of it. CYSA would cover two different roles. So it's just kind of a matrix. You kind of pick which ones you want, and they cover the requirement to be able to be placed in that role. That's the idea. You have to have one to be placed there. Did I answer your question, or I haven't answered your question yet, have I? What do I
You
think
haven't.
about it?
Yeah.
Fundamentals. GCIH, I think it's good exposure, but again, it's not hands-on. And I will always prioritize hands-on certifications over theoretical certifications any day of the week, especially ones where they have an open book exam. No offense.
I don't think I've taken. Actually, yeah, I don't think any of my certs were hands-on.
Well, now we know. Now we know why.
Yeah, because that's behind me. I'm at a higher echelon
Oh, okay, yeah.
now.
He crossed the chasm. He leaped across the chasm like Superman. Yeah.
What next? What else you got?
Yeah, so what do you think about what would you say you would feel since you haven't, because you don't have GCIH, right?
I have GCIH, GSED is Sec Plus, and then AWS Solutions Architect or
Okay, so where would you place it on your
something.
scale? 1 to 10, where would you place it?
Yeah, I mean, when I did it, it was in the military, so like a decade ago, actually probably longer now. Um, I thought it was pretty easy. And then GSED I got 2 weeks after because there wasn't a whole difference to me. I think most of us that went through the GSIH boot camp got GSED like within a couple
Which
of
one's
weeks.
G said?
It's above it to the left. It's the Certified Enterprise Defender.
Ah, okay.
So it's enterprise level, whereas if you think of like Sec Plus as fundamentals or like GSEC, I guess. Um, so yeah, it's just focused on enterprise. But um, yeah, it seemed pretty basic. I think the biggest thing is like the oh gosh, what's this called? Like the maintaining evidence, chain of evidence, uh,
Chain of
custody.
custody. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was like the biggest takeaway, right? It's like, it needs to
Five,
be,
5 seconds of knowledge is the
yeah,
biggest takeaway.
it needs to be immutable, and like make sure that it's good to go if you ever do have to go to court. But other than that, it wasn't really any different than doing IR, I would say. So if you do it, I think you could pass it. We'll leave it there.
Me?
No, I think like if you are in an incident response
Oh,
role, you could certify GCIH without needing to study. I would think.
I would say that would be probably my assessment. So for that certification, this was my fourth cybersecurity certification, and I hadn't got a real cybersecurity role yet. So I was kind of coming at this one with fresh eyes. So it was a lot of exposure to new stuff. So that was cool. Um, like that was the thing with the SAN stuff. They always had good labs, and they do. But you know, once there's nothing there that says you have to learn these labs in order to be able to take the test. There's nothing that says that, except for a couple of them. Like that's why I was like, there's a couple that are like, yeah, you better like actually do the labs and understand. Like the GCIA would be one of them. Like if you didn't do the labs, you're not passing that exam. You got to count like network packet offsets and stuff. So if you have been doing that, you're not passing. Ain't no way. Um, Probably the same at GXPN. GXPN was very hands-on. You had to do like you're having to read raw assembly and do stuff with it on the exam. And if you didn't do the material, you're not going to pass that. But GCIH was more, you know, you can look up the answer, you'll be fine. You don't have to have a lot of requisite understanding to be able to just answer the question. It's probably there. Just, oh, there it is. B. Done. Yeah. Okay. So I guess general consensus, we like hands-on certifications that are meaningful to the job and whatever the subject is, I would say. Um, yeah, I'd agree with your kind of assessment. The the ones I would say are kind of worth their salt are up here. And I would actually put this a little bit higher as well. I took this. This was a game changer for my career. Um, because we needed forensic capabilities and no one did anything. So I said, sure, I'll do it. And I did it, and it really did change the way I look at cybersecurity stuff. Definitely broadened my horizons quite a bit. And just simply because I know more. We're like, I guess let me explain that. So, why did it broaden my horizons? One is because when you're focused on like pen testing or you're focused on normal SOC analyst type of stuff, you have a really narrow view of the world. You're looking at it in one way. But with forensics, your world kind of does this. You're like, the answers that I need can be anywhere on the system, and they're not really just in the logs, they're anywhere. And that's kind of what I got from it is that I can use any of this stuff at any point in time. And then I was using it in my pen test as well, like forensic capabilities, because now it's like, okay, I'm not stuck in this box. I can start working outside this box to do my job. So that's why I said open up my horizons, because it's like, oh, answers are everywhere, you know? So this kind of, I guess, this kind of a really naive look before the world, and then kind of just, now I can see.
That's
I
fair.
know
I think
it's kind of a weird description, but whatever.
it makes sense to me because I've done very little forensics, but when you get into like you're gonna nerd out with all the different caches and stuff, like just knowing that that exists um, can be a big help with your investigation. So, would you say that that is what helped you build your tactical forensics before you left, or did you do like GCFE or another forensic certification?
That is the only forensic certification I have. I have looked at the materials and went through the materials, but that course covered it all, plus um, file system repairs as well. So, like if you have a corrupted file system, part of the exam was having to repair a corrupted file system to be able to mount it again. So, it's that plus more. So, it's really good, affordable, and yeah, highly recommend. But yeah, I based the all the course, all the materials and stuff was pretty much based directly on this what I learned in this course. And then again, it had allowed me to ask better questions that enabled me to start filling in the blanks that I didn't that were still there, and issues that came up during investigations where I was able to be like, okay, none of these that I know could help pinpoint that type of behavior. Let me start searching around. Let me start Googling around, because I can almost guarantee you there is an answer here, and then develop a process. So next time I see that in the future, I know exactly where to go. I know how to find this thing, and now I can train other people to do the exact same thing. But it's kind of like the answer's there somewhere. You just have to figure out where to look and document it so you can do it quickly next time.
Cool.
Yeah, got too excited. I'm out of breath. I've been watching Cops, you know, step other things. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I guess we can stop sharing. So that was a fun little dive down memory lane there.
Well, you got to give us your defensive listing for cert bodies.
At the very bottom, we have CompTIA. Like I said, it's a good foundational one. It's going to teach them what they need to start building on to that knowledge. So I still like them. I just lower your expectations, please, with these certifications. That's all I'm saying. They're good fundamentals. That's it. And this is every single one of their certifications I've taken. Fundamentals. That is it. Because I've even done their CASP or CASP, which is supposed to be like their CISP equivalent. Fundamentals, man. Fundamentals. Pentest Plus fundamentals, lower your expectations. All right, next, eLearn. I would say, kind of the same. I place it mid-tier. BTL 1, I've heard really good things over. I would place it at the top of that mid-tier. We don't have Hack the Box and Try Hack Me in here, but I would place it probably somewhere in the mid tier as well. They both have new certifications. OffSec also has a blue team certification. I would love to talk to someone, so hit me up in the comments if you've taken taken OffSec's blue team one. I'd love to pick your brain about it. Who else? SAN certifications. Some of them good, some of them bad. I wouldn't spend the money on the basic ones, but I might spend the money on the more advanced one. Well, at least GCIA, I would take the eLearn one for forensics versus the SAN ones. If I was a manager, that's what I would rather pay for. There's some other good ones too. I've been looking for those for my folks. Did I miss anybody's, or did I get them all? All right, so let's see what's the next piece here. So I think they've kind of chugged through most of these already. We're just like killing it. So we have like a guide we're trying to follow so we stay kind of on topic instead of going off the rails the whole dang time. And turns out we naturally progress through this anyways without having to be prompted. So good on us. But yeah, so in terms of, oh, here's a good question for you. If you were a manager of a big team, let's say we'll give you 20 guys, AJ, would you give your people time to work the certifications? Do you think it's worth it in that way, or would you rather say, I pay you, you do it outside of work hours?
Yeah, I'm a big fan. If they're able to do it during their work hours, I'm a fan. That's how I would like to do it. Because honestly, my opinion is though, like, if I want you to get it for your job, you should be able to do it during when you're getting paid to do your job.
That's fair. It's a valid point. Not
Yeah, and
everyone
there's
agrees
some
with you.
probably not, but there are some unique scheduling things that you can do. Like when I worked 410s, like one of those was an admin day, right? So
Hmm.
um, you could chuck something in like that or whatever. There's ways to make it work so that you're still getting output without needing to compromise your employees' growth.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts since you are over many more people than that?
I think the weekend's a really good time to study for certifications. If your workload's down, go for it. I know I used to do it when I was on the weekend. Come in early in the morning, sit there and read a book. Then I'd start working on labs, working on my personal projects and stuff like that. But I'm a much better time user than most people, I would say. I think I was the only one there that ever did that. And they're like, what are you reading? Why are you doing this stuff? Shouldn't you just watch TV or YouTube? Like, no, I like what I do.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good place for downtime, but I'm a huge believer in personal projects too. That's something I always push. Like, you should be, especially if you're not early career, you're like mid career, you should be working to improve the organization. And I mean, that's really what you should be doing. Like, if stuff isn't working, you shouldn't be there complaining about it. You should be fixing the problem. And I think those downtime, especially if you're on 410s and you're working weekend shifts, great time to do it. Or if you're working after hours when business isn't running, like that, if it's outside of the 9 to 5, great time to do personal projects. So that's just me, and that's training in its own right. Personal projects, especially if you're deep diving in something new, like, okay, I want to learn how the sim works in more detail because I'm trying to make it do this. Maybe build a new dashboard that helps show lateral movement or helps ingest CTI data and then automatically do hunts for it or whatever. But personal projects, build a new process for forensics acquisition. It's a ton of learning there. So that's my thing. And I think it should be balanced. Like, I don't think people should be doing certifications nonstop all year round every year. I think, one a year, if it's kind of targeted to an area they're working on, that's great. And maybe supportive stuff. So, like when I was doing custom malware for work, I did a lot of training to build up my stuff, but it wasn't courses per se, not all of them. Some of them were teach me programming. I needed to be better with C programming and C++. Then I bought books on writing and playing with Win APIs. But, it's just specific areas trying to help me fill in gaps efficiently and effectively. versus structured. Because that's the thing we haven't really talked about either. One of the things you get out of training that a lot of people, because there's a huge camp in cybersecurity, right, that says certifications suck. They're awful. All they are is a money pit. And then there's others like me, and AJ is probably not in this camp. He's probably in the other one where it's all a waste of time. But I'll let you answer for yourself since you're here. But to me, they're a structured approach to a subject area, which makes them an efficient way to learn. Because if you're not skilled in any of these areas, so if you're saying pen testing or forensics, it's really hard to figure out where to start and what bodies of information are worth your time. And that's where certifications come in handy if you get a good one, where it's helping you they've already made that decision for you. Now you can focus on just learning the materials. That's it. Versus trying to figure out, well, what's important? What should I learn? What's actually going to be usable? But as you become an expert in your domain, then you can kind of start taking all these side quests because now you're more educated. You know what areas you want to fill in. You know what areas you want to deep dive in and all that. All right, what are your thoughts? I'm going to shut up, let you explain your thoughts. Which camp are you in here? Team Jacob or Team Edward?
Uh, Jacob for that one, but both for certifications. Because I think if you're looking at like, we'll go with SANS for example, right? Like, or sorry, CompTIA. A lot of the CompTIA ones are probably a waste, um, unless you are brand new or like you have a requirement for a lower level on your team or something to that aspect. One thing that we haven't really discussed though that I'm a fan of, if say like I'm running the team, if I let someone go to get a certification, because sometimes like you're not going to have budget for everyone to go, right? What I will do is make them write up like what were the big things that you learned
Hmm.
and like how does that, correlate to your role, because hopefully your people are taking certifications that will grow them in their roles or their future roles rather than just, oh, I want to take this cert because it's something that I can say I did, and it's like basket weaving, for example. But when you make them share, one, they're probably going to learn it better, and two, you're now growing your entire team rather than just one person. So I like doing that aspect. And you kind of like, in a way, you're kind of level setting everyone, right? Like, even if you're more experienced and someone goes to a certification that you took like 10 years ago or something, maybe it's been updated, maybe they brought back something that you weren't aware of. So I like that.
How
But
do you
yes, it
feel
depends on the
if
certs.
they take a course that's not directly applicable to their job? Like, say, trying to think of a good example where, like, you have, okay, this one's
I
tangentially applicable. So you have a SOC analyst and they take a Cisco, like, straight networking course. Do you think that's useful or not?
I think it can be. And it would depend on a few factors for me. One is what does that person want to do with their career? Because I think, both of us, most of the people that we talk to on this podcast and everything, manage the people, not the job. And by that, I mean like you're looking out for their best interests, whether or not it involves them leaving your current role. But also, networking is one of those things like, we work in environments, you have a ton of defensive depth. How many times have we looked at like switches or routers or like anything else? Like it's all endpoint, it's all email or whatever. Like very rarely do we ever get into that aspect. So I think it depends. And similarly, like I had to fight, not my current team, this is in the past, but when I first went through like CISP boot camp, I had to argue to our boss at the time why it was applicable because they thought that it wasn't valuable for me to get that. I was like, well, it's valuable because it shows like leadership and impact and all those things that we were doing with exercises, or so I thought. What are your thoughts around that scenario?
So when I look at certifications and time usage, and this is something I talk about on the stream and in my YouTube channel all the time, you got to look at, is this the most efficient route to that knowledge? And in this case, I would argue that would probably not be the most efficient use of that knowledge. I think for the most part, like if you have the Sec Plus, you have the fundamentals, and the rest of it you can pick up in conversations with network engineers and with quickly Googling stuff. I don't think you have to waste because you're talking about a 3 to 6 month investment in time when you talk about a certification generally. Generally, that's what you're talking about. So, is it worth those 3 to 6 months, or should you be doing something else with that time? So, that's the way I look at it. I would say no, unless they're looking at being network specific focus. So if they're looking at being network specialist in incident response, probably a good idea at that point. Um, I would recommend them take something like the GCIA instead, probably, because that's going to get into the packets. Because networking is networking, like really. All when you get into the Cisco stuff, that's really just tracing how did they get through the network, and you should be asking a network engineer for that. I mean, you really shouldn't have to invest the time. That's going to be your more accurate answer. They know how they architected it. They know the rules. They have the rules to all the systems. You probably want to understand the kind of intricacies of the packet itself and how it's being interpreted by some kind of service. That's probably where you want to focus your time. But again, it comes down to what are they trying to get out of it? Does it make sense?
What if you're at a small, so not enterprise level, like say your whole security team is 20 people. Does that change your opinion?
Do they have a network engineer?
One person.
I mean, if they have a network engineer, no, I'd ask them. Because the problem is, even if they were a specialist, right, does it help the team or no? I would say no. It's not going to help them as much as they think because they're only going to be guessing at the stuff when they need a for sure answer, which is the person who designed it, is who they need to be going to.
Good point.
Yeah, because there's too many intricacies with networking stuff. You have rules on every single appliance along the way on the entire route.
Right.
And chances are, as an incident responder, you don't have access to all of that stuff. You need to ask someone. So, is there a big ad? No, I don't think so. I think arguably there's not enough benefit to that time.
So what about, say you have a analyst who wants to get like um, CRTO or EJPT or whatever, one of those like penetration testing certifications, but they're currently working in blue and you don't have offensive security.
I support this. And
Why?
simply because, yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I support this, and I hope a lot of my analysts go this route simply because I know this has been my biggest differentiator as an analyst whenever I pick up the blue kind of flag and wave it, is because when I'm investigating, I can better predict what the adversary is doing in the logs because I am so intimately familiar with the techniques that it's easy for me to translate what I'm seeing in the logs or in the activities to the technique because that's what you're doing. You're playing translator as a blue teamer. But the problem is you can't translate well if you lack all that knowledge and understanding. You're doing a really probably bad job of it. So as you're building those skills, you're also building your blue side skills. And chances are during an investigation, there's going to be gaps of visibility. If you understand the techniques, you can better predict where they're going next, what type of technique they're likely to do. That's going to lend its hand into the forensics to help you fill in that gap or pick up their trail in a different log because you understand the technique so well and what must be true in order for them to move to the next phase of the attack. So all about supporting that. 100% would support it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that goes the opposite way as well, right? Like if you're a red teamer and you know forensics, you're probably going to be better able to help your blue team know where to look and like why they might want to look there. And I think that was one thing that we did really well when we worked together.
Yeah, I think we played what's the word? I was going to say politician, but we help bridge the two teams pretty well, I would say.
Yeah.
That's the purple team. Let's go. Not no more. Neither one of us. What a shame. What a shame. Rest in peace. So that was a good one. I had another. Oh, let's talk about some red flags. So um, when we are looking at resumes, let's go back to the beginning. As we're hiring people, we look at resumes. We see a ton of certifications. Does that say anything to you? Are you interpreting that as a certain way? Like if you saw my resume and didn't look at me, what would you think?
It depends on if they have experience.
Okay.
Because if you just have a ton of certifications, I'm going to assume that you're chasing it for the certification, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you have experience doing things and you also run a penetration testing company. So that makes sense for why you would have those types of certs, in addition to running like a global SOC and whatnot. But I don't really hold much value in certifications unless, like you mentioned earlier, they can talk through it, they can show you that like they learned something rather than they remembered something for a test.
Okay. Would you say that you would be more likely or less likely to interview someone with more certification? So if you had someone with, say, one certification, you had another candidate with five, who would you more likely interview and why?
Well, if that's the only thing, the one with five, or it would depend on the certification that the one is. But if it's someone who has done labs or who has experience and has one certification versus someone out of college that has five and they're not really beneficial. So I'm thinking like WGU, for example, has most of their certifications rolled up into their program. So
Mhm.
say they have Sec Plus, Net Plus, what's the other plus?
Linux
A
Plus,
Plus?
A Plus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's three. Um, and then whatever other two we'll say, and someone else just has like, I don't know. We'll give
Blue
them
Team level one.
GCIH. Yeah,
Oh, okay,
BTL
yeah,
one.
GCRH. Yeah, okay, so who would you interview?
Probably the one cert at that point.
So it matters where they come from more than quantity, for sure.
That and also like A plus, Net plus. Like I don't have either of those, nor do I care to ever get them. You can Google most of that. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. I would say, from my perspective, I agree. The only other thing I would add is what I would like to see in those five certifications for them to matter to me is progressive knowledge. Like it should show an increased level of understanding in the field you're going after. So if you're saying A plus, Net plus, Sec plus, Pentest plus, CYSA, they're all considered one to me. You haven't progressed out of entry level at that point. There's no progression there. But if you had, like, say, Sec Plus, BTL level one, EJPT, maybe that forensic course or something like that, and this is your first job, I'm like, I'm going to interview this guy. This looks pretty sick. He's actually progressively trying to fill in gaps of his knowledge. He's asking the right questions. He's going seeking out his own answers. That's a great resume to me. That is what I would like to see, progressive knowledge. Because we get a lot of folks who are kind of in that bucket where they're just all comp TAA or like Google certification, that CC one that was free. And it's like you're still in that entry bucket, guys and gals. Get out of that entry bucket. Go to your more complex, advanced areas of knowledge, please. You're wasting your time. Like you probably spent what, a year and a half on all these certifications, and you didn't get anywhere else. You're basically spinning your wheels in the same spot, and you waste a lot of money too.
Yeah.
Time is money. Money is time. Cool. Good answer. Good answer, Bob. Good answer. Let's see what else. Um, certification strategy. So that's kind of it. Be progressive. Look for people with that progressive. Help your people get better. I think something I want to pause and talk about, and this is something I've been pushing with my team, is professional development in general. Right? As a leader, we need to make sure we have a good understanding of who our people are, where they want to go, and help them identify opportunities to get there. And I tell people, I don't care if you stay with me or if you go somewhere. Hopefully, I've treated you in such a way you want to bring that knowledge back in house, and I can bring you in at a higher position. And now we've captured all that information here, all that knowledge, and we're getting better. Um, but having those conversations, helping them determine what the best route is, whether it's a certification or whether you should be setting them up with opportunities to shadow or cross train with other teams. Looking at it as professional development, that includes on the job stuff, cross training, and certifications. So have those conversations with people and help them plan their future, right? You should be helping them plan where they want to go, I think. Have you ever had those types of conversations with your leaders at all?
Yeah, to an extent. I think I have it more with people that work for me more than I do it with my leadership.
Hmm.
And for those of you who might not know, like I pretty much just moved my job into another team after Mike left, and so I run testing, but I'm in threat detection as a org. Um, so all the things I have to test, and so like I was just thinking about that while you were talking. I don't know of any detection engineering or chaos testing scoped certification, right? Like it's maybe we need to make one. But that was
Yeah.
something I was thinking of. Like I don't know if there is one. I think it's Sigma and like some Intel based stuff, which is whatever. But so because of that, like when I went and asked for this SP exam this year, they were like, yeah, you can do that because my boss knows one, I do a lot of like our strategy stuff, and two, he knows that he manages me, not this position, and knows what I want to do as far as like my career and growth. But yeah, the people that I work with, I definitely ask. So, for example, a guy that works for me wants to go offensive, right? So, anytime I get testing, which I think would be interesting, I give it to him. Um, if there's certifications that he wants to go for, like if he asked for OSCP, like I would push for it. I don't know that he would get it, but maybe. And he's a programmer by trade, so like he already knows how to write code better than I do. I usually give him slop, and then he'll add like the little banners and like what this does and all that fun stuff. Um, so that's kind of the relationship, the context there. What about you? Like, do you see? Okay, let's flip this. Since you're already at the top, do you see that you would get any more certifications?
No. I mean, I might do the CISP as well. And I've been looking at doing more leadership focused courses. Like I've seen some stuff at Harvard and classes like that to more organizational. But for me, where I'm at in my career, organizational dealing with humans is it's probably more important than the technical. Like I'm really good at what I do. Um, and my job isn't to do it anymore. My job is to guide others to do it for me. So for me, I know, just full awareness and probably the same for every leader. Getting better at communicating my ideas is probably more important. Getting better at inspiring others to do the work is probably much more important than me ever doing the work.
Yeah, that's
How
a
about
good point.
that?
I muted because I need to sneeze, but then it didn't come. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that makes sense. So I guess with that knowledge, how do you guide your people in what, like, say they want a particular certification, but you have experience, so you're like, actually, I think you should do this one. Like, would you push them towards that, or would you kind of let them go for the one that they're requesting?
I would have a conversation with them. And I do this, so I try to do one-on-ones with all my people. I mean, my goal for this year is to do it once a quarter, so every single one of them, and I have a really massive team. one-on-one and have those conversations, and so they can ask questions like, what do you need from me if I want to get promoted? Because a lot of them are focused on getting promoted inside. So what are you looking for me, Mike, in order for me to take that next step? Or, hey, I want to move to this other team, what do you think I should do? So I would have those conversations with them, and it would all be around what are you trying to get out of this certification, and help them understand their options. And then I would support them whatever way they wanted to go if it made sense for the organization, in terms of paying for it. Because it does have to make sense. Like, I'm not going to pay for basket weaving. Like, I got you, but I'm not paying for that. I
Yeah.
support you. Bring in your baskets, whatever. But yeah, we just have those conversations because some of it's just not awareness. Or I would say, I know this person had that certification. Once you go talk with them and ask them, did they get out of it what you're looking to get out of it? But I think in that case, more knowledge is better. And that's the same I do. I try to arm myself with information to make more accurate decisions. And I tell my leaders, because I've been doing leadership training with them, I was like, your job as a leader is not to fail, but is to win more than you fail, and probably want to shoot for the 3 to 4 times more wins than failures. And then people look at you as a successful leader. But you're going to fail. That's fine. But you still have to get better at making decisions. Guess what helps? Knowledge helps you make better decisions. So knowledge is power, and I'm always going to lean into that. Have conversations, but I'm never going to dictate to someone unless they're going to make a tragic mistake. And that's the same with even incident response. I'll let them make a bad mistake, even if I see them making a bad mistake, as long as it's not going to be insanely detrimental to it. I'll let them fail. I'll let them learn the hard lesson. It's okay. And I try to convey that. Fail. I don't care. Guess what? You learn. I just don't want you to do it a second time. That's all. So
Yeah. That's a difficult lesson too for a leader.
Yeah, I have to get better about letting people make the mistakes. So I'm not a micromanager by any means, and it's weighing the becoming like I'm working this year. This is my this is one of my goals this year, is to become more Socratic, or Socratic. How do you say it? Socratic, yeah. Where you're guiding them with questions versus giving them the answers. And so I'm working on kind of modifying my leadership style to be more like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know.
What
We'll
would
see
you
if it works.
recommend? Yeah. So for my certification, right, going for CISP, would you recommend that for me, or would
Yes.
you be like, no, you need to go get
No,
something
get it.
else,
No,
get
get it.
basket weaving?
No, get it. Well, for you specifically, right? If we're talking about professional growth, I know you like to say you have bachelor's worth of education, but you don't have a
It's
bachelor's
true.
degree. And you need to offset that with some sort of something, right? In order to be looked at. And like when I'm talking with people, helping them figure out their kind of journey and game plan, it's you're creating additional opportunities for yourself. The question is whether it's worth the time or not. In your case, I think it is, because you just, even though you have the experience, you're kind of shortchanging yourself with more traditional companies who like to see that kind of stuff. So, if anything, I think you're going to have a drastic kind of opening of your skill set if you want to continue to be in like the corporate America world. That's my opinion. With me, I don't know if it's worth for me or not, or if I am better off doing like a master's, or if I even give a. So dang, I cussed twice. I need to cut that out. But for me, I don't know. I got plenty of certifications. I don't know if one's going to move the needle for me. A master's or PhD might do it, but I don't even know how much longer I even care.
Yeah, there was one I saw on the list. Forgot what the acronym was, but it was like top security. And it wasn't, so like CISP is obviously risk focused and like business education. Um, Whereas this one, it was like at the top for security, and I looked it up, and it's like an amalgamation of other certifications. So you have to have like, I think it said 4 certifications before you can test for this certification. So kind of like the I think it's SANS master's degree type of situation, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and they used to have the GSC where it was basically three certifications, and then you took like a 2 day test to get the GSC. But
I think that's what it was. Yeah, that one.
OSC3 or whatever, OffSec has one like that as well.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I was talking about. The GSE. And my light died, which is awesome because that means the battery is not 2 hours.
Yep, hour 20, man. It could just be brightness. So brightness definitely impacts the light. So AJ, so we didn't do our updates. AJ's got some new lights. His background looks a lot more professional than it ever used to. You know, he used to have this digital background that make his headphones disappear randomly.
Yeah.
Um, but now he's got a bit of some swag over there with his light blends. It's pretty sick. I told him it looked nice. We were playing kind of with this setup to I think it was last week or the week before. It's a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. With that, I think we've kind of hit all the pieces here. Do you want to wrap us up? Did you take notes?
I took a few notes. So, in summary, we discussed certification bodies, kind of how we view certifications when it comes to looking from a hiring manager perspective, growing our team, and the value there. And then our listing for you folks will be CRTO offensive security certs at the top for offense. And then for defense, we have some of the advanced SANS courses, so like GCIA and the eLearn forensics for defense. So you can, if you're, people are asking, hey, what kind of certifications should we look into? We can you can point them to those. I believe we will have a link to that breakdown of the certifications in the description notes below. As always, you can find us on LinkedIn. We have a Discord channel. There's some more stuff that we are dropping soon. Little teaser there for you. And yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah. So just to add to that, if you want to get some hands-on stuff, or you want to point your folks to get some hands-on stuff, or you know some people trying to break in, I live stream every Thursday for a couple of hours doing hands-on activities. So for instance, the last 3 weeks, I set up a lab with Elastic, got logs going into Elastic. Then we did some purple teaming that AJ was sad he missed out on, where we attacked the Windows box we had everything set up on. And then we looked into the logs to see how it actually looks to a blue teamer. So those are the types of things we do on Thursday. Like you said, we have some cool stuff coming out. So keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, that's it. You catch us about every 2 weeks on a release of about stuff that matters to the executives out there in cybersecurity. Until next time, we'll see you later, everyone.